What's the big idea?
Okay. I think we should start recording because, I'm recording, but I think we should stop this.
Okay. Sure.
I don't think people want to hear this. Do you?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
So
Okay.
obscure.
Well, we are back with another episode of Volleyballology. My name is Zuby.
And my name's Eric. I wanted to say I'm Eric, but that apparently we're not allowed to do that.
Shut up, you're ruining the
Right,
intros.
right.
A Meech.
What's with that? Just keep it the same. People want the same.
Why? Why can't we be unique? Huh?
Because we're not unique. We're nothing special. We're a podcast.
Why aren't you wearing your hat today? Huh?
Oh,
That's
because
what I
remember all the people who wrote in who wanted to see my hair? So
Right.
I don't want to disappoint the people. I don't want to disappoint our fan.
He or she won't mind.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this week we are talking about this actually came back as the number one issue in volleyball, youth volleyball today. Sent out a couple of polls on the Facebook and came back as the number one issue, the crazy cost of club volleyball.
Yes.
It's escalating out of control, and people don't know why. And I think more troubling than the escalation is probably the variance, right? Like why the range within the same province or state.
Yeah.
That's a big issue. So, high cost of club volleyball seemed to be one of the major concerns, obviously leading to accessibility issues for kids.
If you ran that
families.
poll 4 years ago, do you think you'd get the same result?
I don't know. That's a good question. 4 years ago, probably.
What do you think the average cost less was 4 years ago? Like I'm assuming it increases a little bit every year, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's funny, there's a couple clubs in our area, not to make it too regional, but there are a couple clubs in our area I know that have never raised their rates over like 5-6 years.
Huh.
And they charge a very low rate, about $750, and they've kept that consistent.
Well, what does that tell you then? That tells you that the organizer is not concerned about the profit, because I'm assuming a director is always going to there's always going to be some surplus of money, which they would probably absorb, which they're almost due in a way for the work they do.
Yep.
Right. So if they're not really concerned with the total number, say that one year they get $8,000 for doing it, the next year they get $7,500. They're probably not concerned, right? And then all of the extra costs, they would come up through as the season goes on. If you want to do an extra tournament, it's not the club fee, it's the hotel and the food and the gas, right?
The only thing is that
you already got your jerseys and your bags and everything. The coach is already on board. It's just a matter of, hey, do we want to go to this tournament? Do we want to pay for it? And then if you do, then you just have to pay for it in that moment, right? So the club fee is one thing, and then how much do you actually end up spending the whole year?
Yeah, so that's the thing too, is that some of these more expensive clubs that we've been a part of or that other people have been a part of, the extra tournaments are on top of that.
That's the only real thing that should have an extra cost, just being, if the other than the cost at the beginning of the year, it really should only be, like Eric said, hey, do you want to go to this tournament? Or if the cost at the beginning of the year is different, then it should be reflected by an additional tournament.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that I don't think we're seeing. You do see, yes, of course. I think teams that charge more are doing a few more tournaments, or a tournament or two more. But the problem, I think, first of all, let's look at some numbers. So we did some digging, right? So in the U.S., the average club cost shows up as roughly about $3,200 U.S., and that's a wide range. Some of them were like, there was even $12,000 clubs, and those are private clubs where you're paying coaches a lot. My issue is that I think there's a lot of clubs that are charging people an arm and a leg, and the coaching is no different than the club that's charging a fraction of that. And they're, within the same state, the range is crazy, the difference between the clubs. So I think there's a bunch of issues here. I think that I think the central issue is I don't know why parents don't. Well, I think I know why, but they don't tend to demand accounting from the club, right? Because they're so concerned about their kid making the team or not rocking the boat. But I wish parents would think of this more of like a condo board, right? We talked about that a little bit, where like why isn't there a parent rep or an organization or group of parents who are on a committee for the club just to see financial breakdown? Because I mean, again, if you're a not-for-profit, like most clubs are not-for-profit. And of course, people are getting salaries in the board, and they deserve salaries because they're doing a lot of work. I know that as an organizer myself.
Well, what does the club fee? Because I don't even know what it includes. Like, does it include provincial fees? Like the hotel is already included?
No. So
like, I don't know.
Club fees typically cover. So typically you get, the minimum amount of tournaments included in that. And you get your coaches.
So just tournament
clothing,
fee, tournament registration
clothing, fee. And bags, stuff like that.
Yeah, so tournament registration fee, clothing, bag, then what? A little bit for your coach. Like the coach maybe gets. I'm assuming hopefully the coach gets like $10,000 for the season.
Oh, no way!
Not even.
No way. Coaches would just get maybe their expenses covered.
Okay, so they could cover their gas,
like hotel, gas, but they're not going to make more than that.
So that's just it. Tournament registration or registration to the league that you're in, right? I guess you have to officially register as a team, or maybe you have to register for because you don't have to play in all the tournaments. You can pick which ones, I guess, and then your gear, and then coach compensation. So that's it. Yeah.
So like in our area, just to give you, so $750 is one rate that we're paying that you can pay in a club in our area, and that club will give you about 4 or 5 tournaments all year. All your practice time, 2 practices a week, coaches.
Oh yeah, gym.
And but the gym is nothing. See, that's the thing too. Like as an organizer, like the club costs. So if you're a not-for-profit, renting gym time is almost free. I'm not going to say free, but it's almost free.
Only from school boards though.
From school boards.
If it's a private facility, they can choose their own.
Yeah, but the rates don't change. That's the other funky thing. So if there's a year like COVID, where the club was paying, more expensive for private facilities, the rate was roughly the same. And then they go back next year, all the schools are open, and the rate's the same. So it's kind of suspicious.
What do you mean?
The gym rental, so like the rate for the players to play club in a year where there's no public facilities available very cheap, and they have to go more expensive facilities. The rates were the same for club.
Right.
There's no change.
Right.
So that's interesting because that means that where's all that extra money going in those years? So I think the key is that, clubs work very hard and they have a lot of organization, but they have a lot of people working in them too. It's not like one person doing a whole bunch of work. So the question is, why aren't more clubs, and this is sort of a solution that we're throwing out right now, and I think more parents should start to demand this. You are the paying customer. You don't want to be that parent, think we're a paying customer when it comes to playing time and all that. But when it comes to finances, because there's 2 things at work. You want to know where your money's going. Like, if the director, assistant director, that maybe a committee of 4 or 5 people at the top are pocketing thousands and thousands of dollars in a not-for-profit venture, that's not ideal either.
These are the type of things to do if you're the type of parent where, if money's growing on trees for you and you don't care, then you don't have to do anything. But if you want to find out, this is the reason we're bringing this forward, is that there's particular costs, and sometimes maybe there's costs that don't have to be there, and you should be investigating to see where your kids' dollars are going.
And even if you are a parent who has a lot of money and money's no object, it's still nice to know that you're not being duped. Because I think that it's a bigger issue. It's not even necessarily maybe about if you have the money or not. I think the bigger issue for me is accessibility for kids, because you got these club teams that are charging a fortune, and I know for a fact, I've seen and heard of parents who don't play because they can't afford it. And that kid might be, know who they'll be one day, or they, that could be their way in life. Like that could be the thing that gets them through, right? So we just want to make sure. I don't know why more clubs personally aren't more transparent in their costs. In fairness, some of the expensive clubs that we've dealt with locally, at the end of the year, I'll be honest, we got a check back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was very rare, I think. But this is a very good club. They charge a lot, and it was, times where facilities were expensive, and at the end of the year, they gave people back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very awesome.
That's going to boost the chances you go back.
Yeah,
right?
It was a good club if the coaching was good.
Most
that's honest.
Yeah. Most clubs have a treasurer, right? Or it's
the
director
for
and
sure.
treasurer the same.
For sure. No, they have the treasurer. Yeah, they do have a treasurer. I just think that it would be very good for clubs to start sharing this info because I'm just telling them, and hopefully this is a warning for clubs. It's coming. People are starting to wonder.
Yeah.
Like it's all over social media. So if you're a club director or a club coach listening to this, start treating this almost like a condo board where your parents are condo owners and they want to see that report of where the money's going. I think that's a huge thing that needs to be done because...
And the treasurer has that information, right? It's not like they're just taking money in.
They
get to see what's going out as well, right?
Yep.
So,
and to avoid the issue of looking like your treasurer and your directors are on the take, start publishing the numbers.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, like I think what adds to this sort of image of fishiness, I guess, is that a lot of club directors stay club directors for very, very long times.
Which is...
and they don't leave. They don't leave the position.
Which gets into a question I had is, if such a parent financial board exists or whatever, who initiates it? Because the thing is, most parents who take a role in the club, it's because they have a kid on a team, right? So if they're in a club, at most they'll be in that club for what, up to 6 years at most, or I guess longer. So.
Usually they hop around anyway, though.
You're
right. That's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah. What's there going to be their incentive to say their kid changes clubs? They're not going to remain, they're going to be the leader of this financial board, but then their kid changes clubs and they're like, all right, we'll see you later. So then that's why the ball keeps getting dropped and it's too hard. It takes a lot of energy to pick it up again and then carry on. So,
and there's definitely a power dynamic too. Like the parent is terrified of the club. Right, so that's why the club has all the power here because no parent will like to say, "I'd like to see your financial breakdown," and then well, your kid just didn't make the team, right? Like that's sort of where that would end up, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying it would be nice if clubs were to be proactive in this.
That would take the
and I mean if there's nothing to hide, then there's nothing to hide. So do it, and the problem I guess maybe they're worried about is like, does anybody ever feel like everybody feels like everybody's overpaid, right? Like, so let's suppose the club director gets $20,000. Okay, people would go crazy over like what amount is right, right? Right. People, you publish any salaries, and the public gets outraged. So maybe I don't know, but is it a good idea then? Should they do it or no?
Yeah, good point. If you know the director's salary, well. What if you just I guess you'll always end up coming to what is left, which would be assumed to be the salary. Because if you can at least be like, hey, like this is what we paid, this is how much, like those things we went over: gym rental fee, league registration, tournaments, clothing, gear, and all that stuff. At least if you can go over that and then see, without directly saying this is what's left over, therefore this is the salary, but. I guess all roads lead to that, right? So,
I mean, anytime that you find that it's justifiable, then that it would be to the director and to the parent to say, okay, what do you think is reasonable, considering I'm doing all this, considering these are my costs, considering these are what it costs to do.
That's what I would think. But what Zuby's getting at is like there's always going to be a group of people that are going to be like, oh, that's too much. But I think what Meej is saying is that's how I would, if I was in that situation, that's all I could do. Be like, hey, like I'm actually putting all this time in. The volleyball season is very long. It's difficult. And if you have like, I don't know, 12 teams, like that's pretty crazy, right? So, I don't know. I think, I guess a level of, if you are a director, of assertiveness, I suppose, like put an idea of what your time is worth to yourself. Like if my time, like, cause I'm assuming they're working a job and they're a parent or something, they have a kid on a team. Now they're going out of their own way to direct. So it's like, what is their time worth? $50 an hour? $100 an hour.
Yeah, it depends on who they are.
Yeah, so
right? Like if it's someone with a demanding schedule, they'll label their time as more valuable.
Like $150 or $100 an hour is not an unreasonable amount, right? And then they total up all those hours by the end of the year or after 10 months, and that could easily look like 10 grand, right?
What was your per hour rate, Meech, when you were in college? You used to charge by the hour, didn't you?
Wait,
no, I did it for the love of the game.
Of the game.
Yeah,
that's all.
I think Meech missed the joke.
Yeah,
I was making a joke about prostitution, but anyway, actually, Meech,
he didn't charge.
No, Meech paid that. Oh no, that's sorry. Anyway, wrong show. That's the other podcast. No, I think Meech is on the right track. That if it's, you just got to lay it out there and say, this is what it's worth. And
which is also part of what you're saying. If the club initiates this first, that'll, I think, fix that issue.
Yes, I agree too. Unless the question gets in, this is sort of the other question, is why haven't they? And that's because I think it's all over the board. Right now, there's no regulation on what a club director should make.
Yeah.
And the problem is, some club director has a sweet deal where they're charging a fortune and they're pocketing a salary, and that's why they stick there for 40 years or 30 years or whatever, and they never leave it until they retire.
There has to be a way to do this, respectfully, tastefully, and with contractual stipulations that if so much money comes in that's beyond this reasonable amount of a salary, it'll just be returned to each team or even individual checks.
Yeah, and I think maybe the club hierarchy, if it's done right, then it probably has some checks in it. Other people rotating in as treasurer, as parent rep.
Yeah.
I think it should be more public though. I think that's because there are so many parents that come to clubs who just have no idea of the hierarchy, no idea who runs it, no idea who's in it.
Yeah.
It would be great, I think, if clubs could start as a practice giving out, here's the expenses for the year. And even all the way up to club director salary. I mean, just be transparent, right? And that's who you have matters, right? Like, because right now there is something where like parents are paying a crap ton of money, and you could pay double the price, triple the price, or like that base price.
That's weird.
No, but you get the same or better coaching. Like the coaching is like really to me, I think that's what's missing is like, here's why you're paying more. It's for these coaches. And that's why, the private club thing has become more of a thing. And it's kind of sucks because it means that the wealthy parents can afford the better coaches. But, you're getting to the point anywhere where there's like clubs that are charging $3,500 and the coaching is nowhere better than the $750,000 club or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's what I think parents need to start paying attention to is, like, again, some clubs do a good job of writing up who their coaches are, but 90% of those coaching bios are like inflated and fake. Like there's a lot of bad coaches that have great looking resumes.
Yeah.
That,
And I feel that the only thing that you can really show that has any resume value is the coach. Like in terms of it being a director, they can have this experience, but it's all about how many wins has the coach had, what kind of experience have they had, what kind of levels has the coach gone to. So
I wouldn't say wins, because I mean that could just be like, if I go coach downtown in a big city, I might have a ton of wins. No, I might have a ton of wins because I can just cut I might not know what I'm looking at.
Right.
And remember, the best coaches sometimes take on the worst players, right? And they try to develop them. But I know what you mean. Where they've played, I think, is a huge one.
Yes.
And their mindset in terms of like when we talked about this in the good coach, bad coach, we don't want the coach that is just chasing wins, because that means that they're going to bench the kids that need to develop, and they're worried about themselves, not worried about the kids. But I just think that if you're going to charge a lot for a club, then you better have your coaching together. And that's my biggest gripe as a parent over the past few years is that, and as a former coach and player, that you pay an arm and a leg for some of these clubs, and then you show up and there's like no knowledge of the game. and you're paying more than you would have in a club where the coach might have been better and it was less money or whatever.
That'd be pretty rough though. Like if you actually end up, I think, you know, when we were pulling up those numbers there, we saw some people paid $12,000.
Yeah,
like
definitely private club.
I would, definitely private club. But I would think in that situation, like, well, I don't know who would sign their kid up and pay that without seeing this coach, without maybe being aware of their previous season or their ability to coach.
I think in that situation, like if, like, you know, we have some friends who are coaching high level private clubs in the States, and guaranteed, like, they just hire the best coaches. So they're getting pro player with the right attitude to coach kids, and then you don't have to worry about it. And that's probably, I mean, you ask who goes there. I can see the parent with money who's so frustrated with the wrong mentality, bad coaching, or paying half that price, a third of that price, and getting nothing for their kid.
And what does that tell you? Because that is true in other commodities. Mm-hmm. Like, price goes up, quality
should go up,
right? So it's almost a way, because again, time is money. Parents don't really have a lot of time to go out and scout coaches, you know? So in a way, it's almost a way to just have blind faith that if I pay more, I should get quality.
Yeah. And that's where, like, you know, that's the whole debate of everything. Like, oh, I want good healthcare, I'm going to go pay for it. I want good, the best school, I'm just going to throw my kid in a $30,000 school.
But you can still get duped in those situations. There's still dirtbags, but I guess you have to be a smart consumer, that's what everyone has to be nowadays.
How do you tell where the benchmark is, though?
Right.
In terms of what good coaches?
Like for a team, you know, the whole organization, how do you compare where, you know, the top level one will be, or whether the lower one will be? How do you benchmark it so that there is a price setting?
Well, again, so this goes into like
where's the best value, right? For what you're paying.
But there's only so many slots, and there's so many kids,
and it's a time crunch.
So parents will, like,
it's got to be a hectic time.
Well, again, remember we talked about this in like how to raise a volleyball player and good coach, bad coach. So, like, the parent doesn't know what they're looking at. So like I've seen coaching bios in expensive clubs where I know the person, and I know that they're not a good coach, and I know they never played, but their bio says they played somewhere far away when they were in their, 20 years ago. But I knew that person 20 years ago, and they weren't a good player. So they literally lie in the bio, like, you know, and the club doesn't even know. But like the club thinks this person was a professional player in Eastern Europe.
At tryouts, were they wearing a one-piece suit? Because then you know, like, here's my money, right? Like,
super tight. What's the what's that material? Polyester zip up.
I'm thinking
Eastern European. The idea is that so the parent doesn't know what they're looking at, so they don't even know. They just read the bio and say, "Oh, a lot of coaching, whatever. Oh, this championship, which is like, not a real thing, championship of the world."
That's right.
It's limited because even if you were to watch some of their games that they coached last season, it's just game tape. It's not practice tape, so you don't know.
And I still think, like, it sounds snobby, but I still think that you can't be a great coach. I mean, sorry, you can be a very good coach.
Who, me?
No, no, the royal you. A person could be a good coach, but they can't be a great coach unless they play high level, because they don't know where it's going. You like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to know.
We should do some research on that. I'd like to see how accurate, because we should be able to prove it, right?
We did in the first show. So the way we discussed this was like, if you don't know what happens at the highest levels of volleyball and the speed of it, then you're more likely to teach a player to be in the wrong position.
You can't answer the question why.
Yeah. I've seen this. So I've seen this when I go in to do a clinic with a team or with a coach, and they've been teaching something consistently wrong, and I can tell them why it won't work where the kids are going to the next level, and they don't have a clue. Or they think, like, you would, for instance, let's use the example of teeing up, right? So like teeing up on defense, men's volleyball, standard practice. start at the tee, and you have to be at the tee because if the middle gets the quick, that's the only place they can crank it around a triple block in the middle. And some coaches will teach players not to be there. And
around a triple?
Yeah, like if you have a, the reason why you're at the tee is because in case your outside blockers can help in the middle and block, the only place that middle player can crank that ball is right at the tees. Yeah. Right? If they go anywhere else, they're into the triple block, right?
You're just not gonna have a triple on a quick a lot of
times. It depends though. If you this is why swing blocking. I mean, we don't have to get into this.
Yeah.
But swing blocking. Once swing blocking became a thing, more guys go up. The ideal situation is you get a triple block. Right, because if they're not going to get a triple block in the middle, then
it's not going to be a very good triple block. The middle is going to be up, and the pins are going to be
again.
reaching.
It depends on how good the middle is. So if the middle player is dominant, then you tell your defense we're focusing on the middle, right? And we can swing block out to the pins, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So in an ideal situation, this is why you
pin blockers will get some hands up, but there's going to be holes in for sure.
Yeah. But if you have a dominant middle, the ideal situation is that your team has to key in on the middle, and that's why you're at the tees. So I've seen coaches not teach getting to the tees, and there's all sorts of problems with that because then you're like, even foot on the line, right? So you can back up on an attack straight down the line, or you can come off at an angle on a hard cross court hit. They just don't know that the tee is like your reference point, right? To do everything you need. And the reason why you want your foot on the line is because the ball gets cranked so fast down the line at the highest levels, you're not gonna have time to go, is it in or is it out? So you want your foot on the line because if it's outside your body at all, it's out. And
it's the limits.
Yeah, and coaches who haven't played at that level or had that ball smashed at them don't know that, and there's no way they'll understand that. So that's a good indicator of why a coach, like, if you want the best coach, then the coach better have played somewhere significant, at least varsity, and beyond is even better. Okay. But doesn't mean though that they're a good coach. Remember, we established that you can be a great player and be an awful coach. You can be a decent player and a very, very good coach. I don't think that you can be a elite coach without having played at a high level though. Just because I think that you can't stand. You don't know how fast.
I'm starting to see it.
Well, remember
exactly.
too.
You don't know the speed of the game.
Well, so for instance, my daughters are still being told by 18U volleyball, they are getting some low-level varsity players still telling them to face the setter when they're receiving serve. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that player has not faced, maybe they're a rookie or something, I don't know. But they haven't faced the problem. Like, they don't know how fast the ball can come at the player. Yeah. And I guess they don't watch tennis or baseball because tennis players don't do that. They don't stand where they want to hit the ball. Yeah. Third basemen don't stand facing first. They
That's a great example.
Well, it's kind of a fake. It's not a great one because they're not hitting it to first there. But the idea is that you're players who don't know that. Every time I see a coach saying that stuff, soccer. Yeah, you just got to split hop in the direction where the ball's coming. So the point is that I think that's where the theory. Like, I've seen it enough now, like in club, where I can instantly tell who's played and who hasn't played based on what they're telling the players. Yeah. Right away, right? Like that coach has played because they know they're teaching exactly the highest level, right? Because you can't unteach a player something. That's the problem that, everybody thinks, oh, I'll coach them for the level they're at. Oh, let's let them go underhand serve all year. Here's another reason why, you know what else? This is something I forgot to mention in Good Coach, Bad Coach. You can tell if a coach is a high-level player because they don't think of certain skills as elite. Like, my daughter is always told to not spin serve.
That skill is by these normal skill.
All these people think that no. Remember we said that thing that get 5 serves over before you can get your spin serve. And I'm like, why? Why are you elevating the spin serve to something? It's just another serve. Some of us would say that I'd rather get a spin serve at me than a float serve, right?
Many people do.
Yeah. So that whole idea of they elevate these skills, right, to something that they think elite players do. The spin serve should be no different to you than a jump float, a standing float, even an underhand for all that matter. Like, the spin serve is just another tool, like we talked about, right? And that's another red flag. They elevate these things. They're like, oh, you're serving. Remember we talked about serving at 80%? That's someone who's never played, because they're elevating. Remember the coach I told you guys was too afraid. They were afraid my daughter was serving it too close to the tape. That's like the ultimate goal.
It could miss.
That's brutal.
So but these people haven't played at a high level, so they've elevated it in their heads to something special. And I can't tell you how many times my daughter at high level volleyball, quote unquote, high level volleyball camps, and every club coach, everybody's like, the only place she didn't get that message was at that university camp with those great players. Remember, the coach was a high-level player, professional, national team players.
Yeah.
They never said that at all. They said, go for it.
Because they didn't think about it.
Everybody else.
The base skill.
They don't see it as special.
The base skill is the spin serve and all these things. And everything else is just a step building up to it.
Yeah. But the non-players see all these things as elevated. So they always tell players, oh, don't do that.
As soon as you elevate it in your head.
Not yet. Not yet.
Built it up to this difficult
They've
thing.
built it up. Yes. They don't understand. So that's where, like, just to bring it back to the topic, like, parents, I know, we don't expect you to know what these bios are, but there are some things that, pro experience on a team that's named, a bio or a university or a post-secondary school, that's a good bio.
Well, and there's a way you can check for consistency there is because if they're on a pro team, they only would have been recruited if they had game tape from somewhere, assuming it's going to come from varsity, right? So, like, if it's like I played pro, but they only have like 1 year of college or something, unless they're like a phenom who
or they're old. Like, see, our generation, we have no video evidence.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's where some of the old fraud, and I know some of these old frauds,
40s and 50s.
Because I never saw them anywhere. They didn't play anywhere,
right? And
when they did, they were awful. And now I see them coaching and saying that they played on a national team in faraway countries.
They've just been keeping that persona going, right?
And then you go and like
same one piece.
One of them said he was a setter in a faraway country, and even now today, if you see him in practice with the kids, like, he's not a setter. Like, you can tell a setter's hands never go away, right?
If you have to look up the country,
but even because what if they really were on a national team of a small country? Because that could be real, but the problem is he definitely was. He never did it because he doesn't have the hands, right? I played soccer in South America just for fun in a men's league, and I used to play a lot of soccer. And one of the guys on our team was a 75-year-old guy who played in the World Cup. Okay, he was 75. His name was Marcos Cole in Colombia. He's the only guy in World Cup history to score a goal right off a corner kick. He scored. He shot.
Really?
He bent it right into the corner of the net. He played against Pele.
That's nuts.
And when I was down, this is a long time. He must have. I hate to say, I don't know if he's still living, but he was old at the time. I think he was like in his early 70s.
This is 20 years ago.
This is 20 years ago, and he was still great. Like, he was still like, he couldn't run much, but his passing was beautiful, and it was just like, so
75 playing soccer.
Yeah, he was a midfielder, so he just stand there, tap the ball, the beauty passes, like, just see things, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean about these guys. Like, they don't. You still gotta have some skill.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 48. I'm 47, and I can still play, right? Pretty well. Pretty devastating, actually. Why are you guys laughing? Why are you guys laughing?
Something funny on this side of the table.
Yeah.
Just happened.
It was just shared between me and Eric.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That was a good one.
Anyway. So the fraud is like, take a look at what they're doing in practice, and you can it's like that, tennis instructor we talked about, a Seinfeld episode where the tennis instructor was Milos, awful at tennis.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry, Eric, I cut you off.
No, I was just thinking, what happens if one of these coaches, the ones, these shitty ones, what if they end up becoming the club director?
Well, that's I've seen that too. Yeah.
Ooh, thank you for your money. Oh yes.
Well, why'd you give the person an accent?
I was thinking Milos. Was it
Milos. Okay, gotcha. All right, yeah.
I have seen the episode. I don't remember.
You're right. He did have an accent. You're right.
Was it slightly Eastern European?
Yes, it was. Yes, Milos.
Yes,
Milos.
Being racist?
No. I just thought you were because you're a white guy, so you have to be careful.
Yeah.
You're outnumbered here, brother. Just kidding. I'm like a coconut.
But think about that. If that person's a coach or a parent one year, the next year they're a coach, maybe the next year they're a coach, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, why don't I become the club director?
Well, see,
and then they become the club director, and then their kid is long gone out of the club, but they just keep doing it.
There's club directors who have no kids in the club.
Yeah, so why are they there?
See, so I've seen people.
Are all clubs not for profit?
That's what I've seen people try to get into the volleyball business, not succeed, and then they show up a couple of years as club directors.
Because
like they were in the for-profit, tried to do the for-profit business, didn't go so well, and then the next time they turn up a couple of years later and they're club directors, and that's a little sus.
Why try to reinvent the wheel when they can just
easier money? You have to advertise with a club,
which is why I think all of these good ideas that we were getting into at the start of this of having the disclosure of where the finances are going. Mm-hmm. I think if we were to keep going down, like keep adding more good ideas, like, the treasurer meets with a parent financial board, and then you understand that like money's it's also going towards the equipment, like new balls and stuff like that. And then a portion of that should be paid off to the treasurer for the work that they're doing, for the coaches, the director, whoever else is involved. And then another good idea would be to, if there's a certain portion left, that could also be just saved and put towards the club as an organization, right? And this is how you can actually build up a club, I would think. And then you can use some of that money to actually recruit better coaches, right? And so I'm just like picturing a club starting out of nothing and then slowly working its way up, right? Mm-hmm. But what this ultimately all ends up pointing towards is a for-profit organization, or is a more...
I know, that's the weird thing, yeah. Something with deeper pockets.
Yeah, deeper pockets. It's just money can get you more stuff, but like you have to, it needs to be used properly. The money needs to be run like an organization or a company or a corporation, I guess you would call it. Like,
yeah. So, like, you mean like all that extra money? I think the best thing for all extra money at the end of the year would be like a new Porsche.
Mm-hmm. That'd be nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't forget the all-important pizza party.
Ooh.
With gold toppings. Ooh.
Can you imagine the director's taking like $20,000 at the end of the year and he just throws a sweet pizza party for
No. I like the idea.
$300.
I like the idea of the club director throwing a shitty pizza party, but giving out pizza in a fur coat. That would be cool.
That would be funny.
Right. He'd showing up in a limousine.
Yeah.
Hummer stretch.
Drives up in a sweet Hummer with stacks of pizzas. There you go, guys.
There you go,
See you later.
Peace out. No. Everybody's just sitting there watching him pull away or her pull away. No, but I think that the problem really that we're sort of addressing, or it's coming out through this discussion, is that some club directors must be making a lot of money and other club directors aren't, because they're in the same areas, right? And if they're not showing you as a parent the numbers, I mean, people have to start demanding this. You are paying customers. Now, you're not just paying, like, you're not just buying $40 things here. You're paying thousands of dollars to an organization. I think you're within your rights to say, do you guys have a printout of what your annual expenses are for the board? Even just the board?
Yeah.
And tournaments. I mean, it shouldn't be that
right.
Shouldn't be difficult to produce that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think parents should start to demand that. I think that's, something that otherwise, why the rate difference in this, especially in the same area? I get it from region to region. I get it if there's a private club versus a public, a not-for-profit club. Mm-hmm. But I don't get it if there's two not-for-profit clubs in the same area and there's like a couple thousand. Like what's going on?
And like you said before, it's better if directors start to get ahead of it, because people are going to start asking.
Yeah.
Especially hopefully, after the show.
Yeah, hopefully after the 5 or 6 people watching this show, our relatives,
yes.
Before they,
My dad,
before Meech's dad comes after you.
Oh man, is he gonna be mad?
And he has an accent.
Yes, he does. So you don't want that. coming down on you.
Yeah.
Directors, watch out.
Watch out. Meets his dad. It's coming. No, but I think it would be a great practice. And like I said, there's only one reason why they wouldn't. Right?
Yeah.
It's too easy as well because there's such gray zone. They could just be like, "Oh, we're paying this coach. This is a better coach. We're paying them more." Well, what are you paying them?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, make the list.
Just
tell us.
Just disclose everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of these not-for-profit clubs, I think, are giving coaches about the same amount of money.
Probably.
Yeah. Very rare do they splurge for a big name coach or something like that. They might, but it doesn't happen very often.
Because if it's a coach who is just a coach, they don't have a kid in that club. What is that coach's interest? They want to get more experience, and they're going to take the highest paycheck.
Yeah, and also, I mean, in fairness, like if you are a great coach, like one of the reasons why I was coaching for club and for regional, provincial organizations, and then I went private because I knew that the coaching was good and I could make some money off that. But I wouldn't go to a club and demand more money. But I have thought of doing the private club before. Yeah. But then the problem with that is that then the rich kids get the best lessons and and so that's why we sort of came up with this idea to do more free stuff for people online. And if people donate, that's great. But if they don't, that's cool too. Cause then we want to give
into that.
Well, so it's like,
how could it not? So
we're running like youth leagues right now. And there's a lot of kids from different socioeconomic backgrounds that we don't charge a lot for our youth leagues. So the instructional stuff we put up is free. Right, and it's high level. It's going to be good, accurate information, but it's not in person, so that's a little thing. We can't hold practices with the world on the internet, right?
Not
or
yet.
Could we?
Not yet. Yeah, true. In the metaverse.
In the metaverse.
Yeah. Catch us in the metaverse.
Okay.
Something to think about.
Yeah, something to think about.
I think our phones are going to be having interesting messages for us tomorrow.
Why?
They listen to us.
Because the phone's listening to us. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Selling us Oculus.
They have no choice.
It's going to be headsets for sure.
We'll have pizza and fur coat ads tomorrow.
That's Porsches.
Anyway, so I think the biggest issue too is that the tragedy for me in all of this is not so much the club getting away with whatever or the club being accused of something they're not doing. I think the biggest thing is that the kids are not being able to play, right? There's only so many spots in every team. Yep. And think of all the kids that are going to be forced out of volleyball's becoming a sport for the rich kid. You'd never think that because there's no hockey equipment. It's not football equipment. Mm-hmm. It's just some knee pads and some shoes and, your uniform and all that. And then the costs are just like, how many kids do you think miss out on volleyball? I saw a post just this week about a parent, they can't afford to do club. So they're going to have to bail or go to a much cheaper club where the kids are, there's an image among the kids that's the worst club in the area. All her friends are on this other club team, but her parents can't afford that club team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's sad. Yeah.
It's crappy, right? And that's where some clubs do a great job, by the way, of having a, like you were talking about that extra money at the end of the year. Sometimes they use that as a thing. Yeah. It's so good. The club that we were talking about that charges like $750 a year, and they haven't changed that rate in 5 years. Mm-hmm. They even have a process where a parent, if there's financial need, they can either get it covered or not be charged.
That's awesome, huge, right? Yeah.
Okay. So if, we don't want this episode to be about all the clubs are stealing our money. Because it's very well possible that there are expenses that we're not seeing. I am in the volleyball world, by the way, so I do know about expenses, and I know the differences between private rates and public rates or not-for-profit rates. I know not-for-profit rates for gyms typically in most areas are very low. Mm-hmm. That's why we're talking about this. But in the what are some things? I guess there's a couple of different things. So what are some things clubs can do to raise funds, but also what are ways that parents can help fund volleyball? Any ideas or thoughts that you could jump to?
I guess before I give out an idea, I would think that, or what do you guys think? Most clubs are being reasonable with money, and they're not like trying to skim too much for self profit. Like, I would tend to think the majority of clubs are like that.
We would hope, but I think the majority of clubs, yes. But I still think that, anytime, people are people. And when there's a chance,
and you see,
I think there's a...
Yeah, and it's when it's left vague in this gray zone, then that's where someone will get a bad idea, or they'll think you're taking too much as a director, even though you probably are taking a reasonable amount. But if you don't disclose it, you're going to allow it to turn into that sour thing. So that, again,
or you're a scumbag who's taking too much.
Or you're a scumbag who's taking too much.
Because it's too tempting. It's very tempting.
But if you are taking something, you're not disclosing it, you should start to do that now, because it's just a better practice. And But yeah, that's... Okay, so ideas would be
for a club or for family, I guess.
For the family to save money.
Is there like there's two different types of ways, right? So what are some ways the club can offset costs for families, and then two, what if you're a family who's trying to afford club volleyball? What are some things you can do, to raise money?
Yeah, well, I mean, I like that idea. All these great ideas require a lot of organization in the club, and if they are able to have a surplus at the end of the year, it's great to be able to save that, and especially have it as a priority to help families get their kid to play if they can't afford it. Like that's awesome. So,
yeah, to use the surplus to help. So that's a good easy one. And I think most people, most clubs have something like that, but it's tricky for a parent sometimes too, though. Like, I was worried about that when I was teaching. Because they don't
want to.
Well, yeah, and also when I was teaching, we'd have things like that for kids too. But what kid wants to? It's the stigma attached with asking for help in our society, especially financial help, is very embarrassing for even adults, right?
If it's going to be done, you would hope that it's between just that parent and
it's very private.
No one else knows about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's confidential ways of doing it, but it takes a lot for a parent to sometimes get to that point. But hopefully they can do it for their kid. That's the one thing that might pull you over the edge is, hey, my kid can't do this because we hit a rough spot, especially coming out of COVID, right? So many people lost so much money.
But it's also because I would think that parent, they're doing the best that they can. And like, say they were able to pay the full fee for the last 3-4 years, just this 1 year. Like, that means if they're not able to pay it, that means everything is super, super tight for them, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that they're trying their best. Maybe they did lose their job or something. Like, so... It would be difficult for the parent to ask, but it also maybe it's got them fired up as well to fix whatever. I mean, I'm sure they are trying to fix the position that they're in, right? To come back and be able to provide again. Right?
Yeah, sometimes it's just beyond people's control, right? And pride is such a difficult thing. Like, it's hard to go ask for help, for people.
Yeah.
What's a typical club season, would you say, on average?
Like lengthwise or
lengthwise?
Yeah. Lengthwise, 8 months, right?
Yeah,
probably.
So probably something the club industry could do is provide a payment plan, because not all tournaments are done at once. Mm-hmm. So perhaps directors and coaches can provide something where it can be a portion of time.
Yeah, and they do. Some clubs do that. That's true. Some clubs do offer that, but not all clubs. Not all clubs do. Yeah, I think sometimes clubs get into. I've heard of like horrific things, like clubs forcing people to pay now or commit to a lump sum all at once. Yeah, you're right. I think that'd be great if more clubs could adopt that. The problem. It's so weird because it ties in with so much toxic stuff too. Like they'll okay, the first people who pay get their spot.
Yeah, not
because the club. Well, because they know, but it's also their way of locking up the best players and again, so one thing.
Money isn't needed right up front. All you need is just to register in the league and then the first tournament. But the rest is.
Yeah, but see, they use it as a way to control the parent again, right? Like the parent who's desperate for their kid to get on that high level club or that club with the best image. Yeah. And then it's just part of their game again, right? That whole toxic game. I would tell parents that honestly, if any club is pressuring you to pay, and I saw this in a Facebook post, and we Volleyballology, we wrote a comment to that just to say, if that club is pressuring you in that weird way, remember, I always like the line, "How you do anything is how you do everything."
Yeah.
Run from that club, because that's just a small little red flag of what they're going to be like in other areas of their operations, right?
Yeah.
If they're slimy scumbags forcing you to pay. And I think it was like, the one story that I read was that this daughter whose mom was sick couldn't attend the practice that day. They pressured her daughter to sign her agreement, and it was like a huge financial commitment, and without the mother there. And then they eventually wanted, and they had to sign it before the end of the night, like before no, you can't leave here without signing this thing. She signed it, and then they ended up wanting to play for another club where a bunch of other players were, and then the club director was suing that mom for like $5,000 US because her daughter signed it, which isn't even legal.
It's not even, yeah.
I don't even know. I think 16 is the legal age for a lot of contract signing, but it was a bizarre situation. But, and the comment that we made was like, yeah, just get away from that club. Like that everybody around that situation should just bail on that club, because that's who they are. Like we've seen club directors like this too, right? That's why I think most people have a story of club directors that,
you know of a lot of horror stories.
We know of a lot of club directors that are just, very weird and very just in it for the wrong reasons. So it wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
I think everybody listening to this probably knows of a club director in their area who's a little bit weird or shady or rude or crazy, and they've been doing it for like 30 years. Of course that person's skimming money off the top. I'm sorry, but they are.
Yeah.
They are, and you could say they're entitled to it or not, but we don't know. So hopefully parents can come, like we said, come to that idea of some form of, can we get a fact sheet? But we want to get to, sorry, I got too far off the topic of fundraising ideas for parents or clubs. Yeah.
It's just, I'm off topic again. It just seems like such an unregulated industry.
It is.
Like it's just a Wild West type thing.
Well, and why,
right?
And what happens with unregulated industries? They get flooded with people looking to make a buck. And here we are. And look at the volleyball world. It's
because
flooded.
And parents, they're not gonna, they might be with that club the 1 year and then they'll go to the next one for whatever reason. And so like, as long as like you keep flipping, high turnover rate, you can do all this shady stuff and everything just gets hidden, everything gets forgotten about, and the next thing you know, your kid is old enough, they're already out of club and they've moved on with their life. And then you've forgotten about all those thousands of dollars that were just like lost. Bro.
Yeah, it's a
bit of a hit and run. It can be.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it's like, because it's so hectic and you're running. And you're just trapped in this world.
Which sucks.
And then you wake up 4 years later, your wallet's gone. And you're like, what happened? Are you still playing? You're not playing?
It can't, and it's probably not. It can't be just volleyball. I'm sure it's like hockey or all these other sports, right? Like.
Yeah, I think that volleyball's growth though is so fast right now because concussions in other sports, they're all leaving soccer, they're going into volleyball, they're leaving football, they're going into volleyball. A lot of them are leaving hockey and going into volleyball. That I think the growth is so fast that it's like almost like you said, Wild West is it.
They want the kid on to be in a team. It's hard to get a spot. Therefore, that pressure is what allows these clubs to do these skeezy things with money. Oh, first come to us,
or just not create the card, like not create the list.
Sign up now and get 2 extra volleyballs or something weird that you're gonna pay for anyways.
Hey, you want to play volleyball? Come play volleyball for Crazy Vinny. We got volleyball. You like volleyballs? We got volleyballs. Meech, tell them about the volleyballs.
Why are you doing that accent?
We got volleyballs. We got red volleyballs, blue volleyballs, red volleyballs. Yeah, you're right, Eric. Hey, Eric, you can't call me out on the accents.
Hey, why are you doing voices of white people, man?
No, I didn't.
You were doing Italian.
Mediterranean. No, I was not. That was Brooklyn.
Oh.
Get your dialects together.
You're being racist. Eric tries to call out racism, gets labeled racist. I just assumed all those guys are Italian.
I was going to unplug my mic.
Yeah, forget it. Buddhists. Let's go back to Buddhists. That was earlier episode, Eric.
Episode 3?
Yeah, episode 3.
I'll never forget.
Buddhists are all monks. Anyway, go back and listen to that one. So, tell us what you think in the comments. What do you think, guys?
How racist
are Buddhists?
is Eric?
I'm becoming a social media influencer. Tell us what you think in the comments, because I think you're an idiot and you don't know what an algorithm is. Sorry, you know what I'm talking about? You know how every YouTuber asks a stupid question in their video, and they answer me in the comments. What's your favorite volleyball color? And then I hope that everybody will run to the comments section like an idiot. I like volleyballs that are blue, and then they don't know that I'm just increasing engagement. Like if I said, "Do you think club volleyball rates are too high? Tell us what you think in the comments." Homie, don't play that.
It's just wrong.
Cringing.
I'm not going to insult our audience's intelligence.
All right. Well, that's
because I think our audience is the best audience in the world.
I like my family and friends.
No, see, don't you understand? I actually said that our audience was intelligent, and then I said empty compliment. When someone says this audience is great looking and they all start clapping, we are great looking. Anyway, we're off topic.
My sister would like that.
Your sister?
Yes.
Your sister would like that. We said she's good looking?
Oh yeah. She'll like that.
Yeah. Your sister's a good looking woman.
Because it's just family and friends watching, right? So
it's time we told you, Amici. I'm your father. That doesn't even make sense. You have to be your mother.
And I'm older.
Anyway. I didn't say I was good at math. Just at making love. Okay, so anyway.
Any further ideas for fundraising?
Yeah, clubs, parents. Well, I think
payment plans.
Payment plans are great. Right. I think that clubs should. They have access to these gyms, right? And they have access to a volleyball community. I don't know why they don't do more fun.
I mean, in high school we did the bakery and stuff, or the bakery.
You just cut me off right in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah, I did because I wasn't listening.
And I talk too much. I do.
Yeah,
it's a problem.
What's it called? I can't even remember.
A bakery. You opened a high school volleyball bakery.
Where you just
sold bread.
Everyone would bake stuff or get their mom to bake stuff.
Oh, a bake sale.
There you go. Remember, I couldn't remember wristband. I can't remember bake sale. Wow, I'm the youngest one of all of us too.
No.
But and then like the car wash and stuff like that, right? But outside of those two, I mean, just get creative, and I'm sure there's lots of ways to fundraise. Well, the local college team, they just host tournaments because I mean the college team is already getting a good rental fee on the college's facilities.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I was saying when you interrupted me. Is that
I'll say it. So these club teams, they get a good rate, right? Because they're already locked in, and so they can throw tournaments, and they can throw a lot of fun tournaments like co-ed and reverse and stuff like that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And actually, I think what they did is they threw 2 of those tournaments, 2 reverse. They did some other stuff as well. And then I think they used it to do a trip out west.
And do you want to maybe tell people what reverse is? Because they don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Reverse. It's a fun co-ed volleyball format. Probably.
Nice.
Well,
why is it called reverse, though?
Well, I'm not done talking with this guy.
Sorry.
As soon as someone else starts talking too much, he just goes crazy.
So you admit you're talking too much.
Oh. Yeah, I'm talking too much. Okay, so females play front court, males play back court. And you play on a women's height net. That's pretty much it.
And guys have to hit behind the attack line.
Well, because they're in back court, yeah. So that's part of the rules of volleyball.
Do they rotate her?
I'm not going to insult the intelligence of our audience. And no, they do not rotate.
Oh, they don't rotate. What a neat thing.
You want me to explain every little detail of a reverse here?
What's the dimensions of the court?
This guy.
Remember that? That's Jim Carrey. Okay, so yeah, I said club teams have access to these gyms, so they should organize some events.
Did you say that?
That's what I was saying when you interrupted me.
Okay.
With your bake car wash.
I was thinking bake off.
Bake off doesn't not traditionally a good money maker. Bake off.
Getting high or going down?
Bake off.
Yeah.
Bake off.
Bake.
Sounds like an insult. No, but so the club. So rather than raising rates on parents, wouldn't it be great if a club was like, hey, there's more expenses this year, so we're going to run some events.
Or extort parents.
Extort. Oh, your kid can leave practice. All right. That's not a good way to raise money, because the whole idea is it doesn't want to come out of too many. I mean, you probably have families who could help. That's the nice thing about a bake sale or a tournament, if you organize a family thing, is that the parents who have the money can actually contribute, and it's a nice, less intimidating, like we talked about, embarrassing way to assist. Maybe you can offset costs for everybody, right?
And people who feel like they want to contribute more, but maybe they haven't been able to financially, they can offer their time and their commitment and stuff. And it's more team bonding, and like the parents get involved with. So it's just, it deepens the connection with everyone, probably.
Yeah, it's like a win-win-win thing where parents can play with kids in a fun tournament. Yeah. People can participate, pay a low fee, and then the club can then use that money to not ask for a raise in fees to parents or something. That's a good way to offset it for the club. I think that's the key, because you could argue, well, the club doesn't need to raise money because we can just charge more. And that's sort of what they've been doing the past few years, is just raising the prices. Why don't you use your access to gym time and to that big chunk of the volleyball community to do something that just lowers the rates for everybody? Because I know we organize tournaments and events all the time for charities. Yeah. And it raises a lot of money. It raises a lot of money in one day that would really be great for kids, right? And we're talking about, actually, part of the thing like I'd like to do is start to have events where all the money goes towards youth volleyball, or like people could apply if they can't afford club rates, because it kind of, or even in our own programs. So, you literally have more kids play for free in our programs. I think that'd be great.
So how about this too? Even if you provide a tournament where the club gets a chance to look towards what could be coming, like it's open to everybody, and then the clubs get a chance to look at future players.
Oh, so like just youth players.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. They are starting to do, like, some clubs are running like learn to play programs and leagues that we used to do, right? Mm-hmm. As a good way to do that. They are getting those early kids, and that's a good one that they are doing. Some clubs are. Some clubs aren't. Some clubs do. Again, it matters on how many people are, able to assist with that stuff, right? And also, sometimes, again, when a club runs stuff like that, though, we also wonder, where's the money going? Because the rates don't change. Some of these clubs that do that stuff, they're charging a lot of money. Some of the clubs that we talked about in our area that are charging a lot, they're also running these other programs, and yet the rates aren't going down. So is it just a profit generating thing for that? Oh yeah, sorry. If you get an admin team in there, and they all are like, hey, look at all the money coming in. People can be, that's where people get weird, right? And they're all like, hey, if we just stay here, and we can always pay ourselves X amount of dollars.
Because it seems like a good idea, even if the club doesn't necessarily need extra money. Like maybe they're already getting enough through their initial fee. It seems like a good idea just to do these fundraising events anyways. But if you are going to do them, at least do them with respect to the people that you're offering this for. It's like, hey, this is a fundraiser tournament. Like, we're hosting an adult fundraiser tournament. So the point of it is to raise funds for the club, and then we plan to send our 14U team to this exhibition tournament at the beginning of the season, and maybe it probably would be the 14U team who specifically is the team organizing and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other thing they can do is, again, if there's money left over or whatever, they can put it aside for, I don't know, that money can be used for future fundraising stuff, right? Where the whole organization is getting, I don't know, more equipment. I don't know, things that can just, but it all keeps leading to that problem of, if extra money keeps building up, where is it always being pocketed?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Who's in control
again,
of it?
That should be on some sort of financial statement at the end of the year.
It's almost like if that 14U club team made money, they should just use all of it for the trip. That's the best way, almost. Mm-hmm. Don't give a cut of it to the director to, here's a contribution to the club, because I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, but I think we keep going back to that transparency idea, eh?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why clubs aren't giving that. I would right now, and it's coming. Like, it's definitely coming, right? This
and I bet you people would flock to that club model.
I think so too, right?
If all these checks are in place, like quality coaches, transparency, and just like bringing it to them without them having to request.
I also said too, like, I think that there's not, like, so let's suppose you got 12 kids on your club team. I also said, like, I think a lot of parents, again, just to take it to a different, like, so if you were publishing all the numbers and you said, oh, here's what we pay our coach, and if that number was a little bit higher for a high level coach, I think there'd be a lot of parents on board with that.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'd be that upset. Like, going back to that earlier point about would they be upset when they see the number that the director's making or the coach is making or the treasurer is getting a little bit of a stipend or whatever, right? I don't think they would be upset with that. If
that's a good place.
But the problem is, what if the coach sucks?
Well,
right? What if the coach sucks and then you see that they're getting X amount of dollars? And then you're like, fuck. Like, you know what I mean? I think that it'll open the door for that. But you know what? In the fairness, when you open those doors, it makes you as a club better too, because now you're worried about people seeing this number. And if we better make sure that's a person worthy of that number, or we better make sure that number is worthy of that person or whatever.
It seems like you're recruiting for that coaching position each year. Like, even though they coach this year, it doesn't mean they're guaranteed to be doing it the next year.
And right? Also, like, and just, I guess maybe
because if some other coach hears it, sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's okay.
If they hear about it, they're like, oh man, like that coach is getting paid $3,000 more than I am, and I'm way better.
That's interesting. Like, yeah. Maybe they don't want that. But again, I think it all goes back to, like, transparency is never a bad thing.
That's what, right? Yeah.
Well, the only thing it can do is force the organization to be better.
Yeah.
Force the person to be better.
Can force
tough competition as well.
Yeah.
So if an organization is willing to pay a coach a certain amount and another coach feels, oh, that's high, then they may want to go to that organization and say, I'm better and I can prove why.
Yeah, and maybe that's what clubs are running from. They don't want that situation. They don't like competing with other clubs. No, I told you, like in the good coach, bad coach, we talked about where they intentionally scheduled tryouts, unpublicized tryouts on a day they knew the other club. Like,
that's so
petty, right?
Yeah, but you would end up, if it was run, this is like maybe we're creating the ideal club system here, you would beat them not only on the court, but you would be beating them in the organization of the organization.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I'm seeing this like in our area here, not to name names, but I'm seeing one club that used to be the king of the castle kind of degrading, falling off a little bit. And I'm seeing another club that's a little bit younger, but they're super organized, give back checks, same club at the end of the year. If there's extra money, doing all those youth things that we talked about, like, integrating into the community much more so than the other club. And they're just passing them in the social media world. You know what I mean? They're just on social media. They're promoting themselves better. They seem to be, if they were a club in our area, I would almost think that they were the type of club that would be transparent too. Like, I could see them coming out with this idea we're talking about of, here's exactly where our money is spent, because they gave back money at the end of the year, right? The other club would, you're unhappy, too bad. We'll keep your money, get lost. That's sort of what they're like, right? And that never wins in the long term. So, I'm hoping clubs will understand that they can do a lot to offset poverty, right? Help parents, not poverty, but help parents who are struggling to pay the bills.
Yeah.
A club that does that will win. And if they mix that with, and coming up with those, opportunity, like fundraising things we talked about, and if they mix that with transparency, I hope that's where we're headed. I think we have to be, though, right? I know with this show, like, we'd love to give ourselves credit for sparking this idea of parents demanding things from clubs. But I think that it's coming anyway.
Well, it's either that or a regulating body steps in. And then what's the better option? I would, like, transparency would be, I would think, right? Because you don't want to, as soon as regulations come in, now you have to end up paying fees to that just to keep that thing going, right?
Or the public humiliation. Don't forget, like, we live in a social media world. So if something gets out one day about, wow, look at this club director's got a whatever, right? Gold pizza. This guy eats gold pizza. Then
gold for gold.
That's totally the other thing that club directors, because a lot of these guys were raised in a different time.
Yeah.
And they're operating in a new time. And when you
it'd be karma coming back.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, kind of. We're seeing it across society in a lot of ways, right? Where people are paying the price for past grew up in the wrong era, and now they're like, oh, what do you mean? What do you mean you can track my phone?
Is there that was a good joke.
Thank you, Eric.
Is there
you as well.
Is there a sport other than volleyball that does this well?
No. Meech?
Volleyball's the best.
Yep.
There's your answer.
Why don't you go on a podcast about other sports?
No, but like, I can't think of one. So.
Yeah, good, because you're on Volleyballology. It's
Okay.
not hockeyology or golfology or footballology. No, I know what you're saying. Are there sports? Well, I think sports that have had success longer, right? Like volleyball is a kind of a new exploding sport. I'm sure that, we're seeing something in Canada, Hockey Canada, going through a little bit of a nasty spell right now. You guys know about that?
No.
Oh, no? You didn't hear about it?
No.
We're volleyball focused.
Yeah, we're volleyball. Yeah, me too. But I hear things.
Okay.
I keep my ear to the ground.
We'll talk about it off air.
No, it's okay. It's just Hockey Canada has a bit of a scandal right now, and they're really trying to. The World Junior Tournament a few years ago, they had like a bit of a sex scandal, and players were accused of things, and Hockey Canada was accused of brushing the incident under the rug. Sweeping it. I guess you don't brush it under the rug. You sweep it under the rug. Brush it. Sweeping it under the rug and using like taxpayer dollars to help cover up the thing. So I don't want to speak about it because maybe it wasn't. Knowing our luck, one of our 3 listeners is a lawyer for Hockey Canada or something. Anyway, so you would think. I don't think it's about a matter of like someone doing it better. I think we're getting into the nature of humanity, right?
Yeah.
And anytime people are dealing with lots of money, you got dirt bags and you have ethical people.
Mostly ethical people.
I would like to believe there's mostly ethical people. I 100% agree with you. I think that we remember, though, the dirt bags, and they really stand out. So it skews our perception to think there's more dirt bags. But then again,
we want it to remain the pure, clean sport that it is, and these type of discussions help with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's really nice, Meech. It's really nice.
I believe that. Yeah.
That's Meech's summing up tone. That means that Meech is gotta go.
You can always tell.
That and you turned on your car with your remote starter. You can hear it.
What are you talking about?
I think that. If clubs can be more transparent, assist, and then for parents for their own fundraising, last thing we'll probably talk about is what can parents do to offset costs themselves. That's a tricky one. I mean, shop around. I think, I always like to tell parents too that your goal here is to have your kid playing, by the way, right? As much as possible. So they don't have to be with the expensive club. They don't have to be with the great club. They just need to be getting a lot of reps.
Yeah.
And there's an argument to be made. I mean, Malcolm Gladwell talked about this too, about the idea of students who go to Harvard and do mediocre versus students who go to like a lower level school and do really well.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for being the big fish in a small pond, right? Like if you're going to get playing time at a smaller club, your kid's going to get more playing time. Right. That's all that matters. Right? Like some parents always, I see this too, this question shows up on social media, like, they'll be willing to spend a fortune to go play for that high ranking club. But then they won't.
What are the reasons to?
Well, because the cachet, right? The cachet, and that's the
big
big club,
quality.
and that's where the big coaching is.
But if your kid has better friendships at the cheaper one,
or again, more experience and more playing time.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, because otherwise you're wasting years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's touches, right? We know as athletes, so parents, if you don't know this, your kid will just get better by more reps.
Yeah.
So the place where they will get more reps is good. Now, I agree, if there's a toxic coach in one place and your kid's going to play a lot there, you don't want to go there. It's always pick the better coach. I think if you know their personality and their vibe, but like we've done this, like, so this year my daughter could have played at some bigger clubs, but she wanted to go play with her old friends at one of the clubs she played at a few years ago. She likes the team. The coach is very positive, knows his stuff. And so that's where she's going to go. And she's going to get more reps at that club. She's going to also get to play another position that she wants to play more. So that's what she's going to do. She's going to follow the fun, right?
Yeah.
Not the image. It's a smaller club. It's further out of town. We don't care. I always like my kids being away from noise anyway. I think more parents should be like, be wary of the loud, glitzy club because they have you on a bit of a string there, right? And you might be breaking the bank to go there.
Yeah.
And even if your kid, like, teach your kid not to be so into the image, by the way, right? Mm-hmm. Teach your kid to go get reps, go get touches. It's a long game, volleyball, right? And you just want to go somewhere where you can develop and have fun. And again, especially if it's like that was one of the posts that I read, that one about the girl that wasn't, the parents were talking about quitting volleyball because the daughter didn't want to go play for the smaller club that was far less expensive. She wanted to play with her friends at this other club. But that's the thing where you got to teach your kid, right? Like, life is tricky sometimes. And we're just going to go here. And you're going to get better, right? Yeah. Everybody thinks that it's be all end all here, there. My kid's going to suck if they're not on this team with that coach, you know?
Yeah, like, I don't know. I think the fun element is huge. Like, you know, if they like their teammates, I think that, yeah.
Yeah, it's priceless.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Otherwise, they'll hate the sport too, right? Those big clubs, often those pricey clubs, can have a lot of stress in them, a lot of game playing, a lot of politics.
Yeah.
So there is an added advantage financially and emotionally, everything, if you just go away from the noise and be willing to pay less.
Yeah. And if you're having fun, you're playing free, not financially, but
playing loose. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And learning.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I think the biggest thing that came out of this show, if we were to sum it up, was that financial card. Like, I think if clubs start to get on that, be a little more transparent, parents should maybe start demanding that they are paying customers here and start thinking of it. Like, I like the idea of the condo board.
Yeah, get the conversation going. Even like if you have a relationship with the coach, just start it there, because then maybe the coach is 1 degree closer to the club administration, right?
Mm-hmm. And maybe the parents, like, start talking among parents.
Yeah,
like, you know, I think that way it's almost has that union feel to it, where there's strength in numbers here, right?
In a way, you're entitled to know these things, and you don't. Yeah. You shouldn't feel like ashamed or embarrassed to be asking. Like, it's
or that you're imposed. Like, you know, if a club, here's another great thing: if a club is going to treat you worse because you ask these questions,
there's the tell.
There's your red flag that club probably is, one, up to no good.
Yeah, that's such a red flag, man. Yeah.
and two, that they're not the right club mentality-wise, ethics, you know. You know, because that's what we would teach our kids, right? If you don't want friends like that, right? Oh, friends who notice that stuff aren't really friends. So let's remember that about our club teams too.
And being involved enough to say that, you know, maybe as a well-to-do parent, maybe the other parents aren't in the same position. Mm-hmm. So, you know, explore coaches, explore with for unity, saying that, hey, you know, I know that I have this, you know, business acumen, or I can do something to help raise funds for team. Just explore it and see how directors, coaches go towards that.
Right, that's true too. See how they react to that stuff too. Yeah, as well.
Yeah,
agreed. All right, guys. Well, that was another great show. Meech, I guess your gas is wasting outside with your
I really should keep going there.
The weird thing is Meech rode his bike here, so that's strange.
Hey, that's my fault. I showed up late, so sorry, guys.
Okay.
Every penny
I'll bring you each a golden pizza next week.
Golden pizza.
Thank God, dude. I'm glad you said pizza after that.
That I was gonna say pineapple.
Golden shower. Okay, see you later, guys.
What's the big idea?